Okay, guys, I would like to welcome to the show. We've got Vinny with us. How are you, sir?
Well, we were talking before we went live. I'm a Jets fan. I don't know if you were mainly UK audience, but the New York Jets is
Yeah.
a I can't put it into words. It's like Charlie Brown meets freaking what Jimmy Olsen from Superman. I mean, it's just the other guys, the underdogs, and just this is supposed
Yeah.
to be our year. 75
Uh,
seconds in with Super Bowl defense, Super Bowl running back, Super Bowl receiver. And then the guy that we get in who's 39 years old goes, "Oh, my ankle." And then boom, he's done for the year.
Game over.
So we got a
Yeah.
guy in a wheelchair basically playing the rest of the year as quarterback, or we got a guy with like one hand and a hook as the other quarterback. I mean, it's just a bad situation. It's going to be a bad year.
It's going
And
to be
I'm
a long
still
season.
yeah, and I can't believe we won the game, and that just tells you there that the Jets would have been. They beat the Buffalo Bills with defense and special teams, and if they just had a
Yeah.
halfway decent quarterback, it would have been 17-0 this year, baby.
Well, as I told you, I feel your pain because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and I don't think we're going to be cheering a lot this year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we can turn it around. It's only 2 games in, so I don't want to get too doom and gloom. But
Well, we're 1-0, and we're singing the blues over there. We just heard our kicker got
yeah.
pull his groin. What was he doing over there? Trying to screw
Ah.
Madonna? What the hell was he doing? Pull your groin. What
I
the hell? But anyway,
know, man. It's painful.
it's the this is a paranormal show. It's the curse of Joe Willie.
Yeah.
Joe Namath sold his soul to the devil. This is the urban legend, and it has to be true. I mean, there's nothing. You watch Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers comes out with the American flag. It looked like a combination of Captain America, Abraham Lincoln, Santa Claus, and Jesus Christ, and George Washington running out in a football helmet with American flag 9/11.
Yeah.
Posts it, the place going crazy. That place, I can tell you, MetLife Stadium is the worst and most boring plain stadium in the NFL. It's just got no flavor because it serves the Giants and the Jets, and they kind of are having to move things around. He sticks it down. The place going crazy. American national anthem, tears in the eyes. This is it. Jets, 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 Jets. Gets out there. I'm telling you, the devil himself
Oh.
was sitting there going, I saw somebody say they're going to take Joe Namath and build a gallows on the 50-yard line and sacrifice him to the devil for this curse to end. And I think we need to make a phone call to Joe going, "Hey, Joe, have you lived long enough? You got to make out with Shirley MacLaine in those stupid movies, Chattanooga Choo Choo or whatever the hell you made in the 60s. You've done enough, man. You won the Super Bowl. End it for the rest of us." But we'll
Can
have
you
to
tell us
figure
what
it out.
that curse was? What's the story behind the curse?
It's just the Jets have, I mean, the New York Jets were always the underdogs, right? They were, the Giants were always from the NFC, and we were kind of, green is a weird color to have as your. So I mean, it's just we're the rock and roll guys. Our guys always had mink coats and goatees back when that wasn't fashionable, and it was just pot smoking, rock and roll, and womanizing, staying up all night, drinking all night kind of football team. We were the other guys. The other guys were serious, and we were like gambling all night type. And it didn't make any sense that we won the Super Bowl. And you're British, and I just don't know. You're a football fan. I don't know American football. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you know, but when the Jets won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl III, it changed football because it was the the NFL and the AFL. It was two different leagues. It was like the NBA and the ABA in the 70s. And everybody was like, it was like playing a college teams. They were like, the AFL is terrible. We shouldn't even be doing this world championship game. You got to love how Americans play everything in their own country, and we have the audacity to call everything a world championship. British people, can we come over and play? Fuck you! No, we're having our world championship. You stay over there. You eat your beans and toast and play soccer. We're having our world. We have Toronto. Toronto's in the league, so it kind of we have a little bit of Canada.
That's the
So
world.
anyway, yeah, that's the world. We're international. So anyway, so he sold his soul to the devil. I mean, there's no way the Jets should have won. We won by 2 scores, which was unbelievable. I mean, we were and that was the whole guarantee. People were. He's like, hey, I can't. It just tells you how we. Every effing week on Sports Center, somebody says something more audacious than what Joe Namath said at the pool. But back in the 60s, he's like, hey, man, we're going to win. I guarantee it, pal. You know, and everybody's like, oh, he guarantees it. So anyway, that blew up. And so that's why the New York Jets was the world champions. And then the next year they should have they should have made it to the Super Bowl, and they had a terrible game in the AFL championship. And then there was the merger. And ever since the merger, we've stunk. I mean, we've had a couple good years here and there, but we've never, I mean, the Patriots were the worst in the world. And all of a sudden they became this dynasty.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
but,
it can happen to anyone.
Except for the
That's
Jets.
what I love about it. And the Vikings.
Yeah.
Sucks.
You
man.
you guys at least win a lot of games all the time, at least. And now Aaron Rodgers is out, so you'll be back.
Yeah. We normally do pretty well, but never just well enough. I would kill
for that.
Yeah. I want to see a Super Bowl, man.
Me too, baby. And look at this. I'm running out of years. We were talking about, this is a sad thing too. There were guys at the stadium Sunday who were 70. And people were like looking over at their dad going, this was it. And he's not going to, he doesn't have many years left. I mean, it's like he went down with that ankle. He blew his Achilles out. And it was like, he's never going to see it. He's never going to see it. We're going to be sitting there pouring out half of 40 for Grandpa when the Jets finally do win one. 20. Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
Wilson might be able to do it. He might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. So you've got quite a resume, sir. I've checked you out. Pro wrestler, stand-up comedy, filmmaker. Pretty impressive stuff, man.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into that sort of thing?
Well, I've always been an entertainer, I mean, I'm Gen X, so I mean, I grew up watching David Letterman and Late Night with David Letterman out of New York, and I'm not from New York. I've always fallen in love with what New York was, and I've been several times, and but I fell into entertainment because I looked at that on the TV going, man, I think I could do that, and I've had a lovely, nice career of anonymity and adequate paychecks, and I'm never world famous or anything like that, but no matter what I've done, I've always had I've had some sort of a micro successful career in each. Until my biggest problem is I get bored easily. So I started off doing stand-up comedy. I lived down south. There wasn't a lot of venues, back then. New York, LA, that's where you would, and then if you want to do improv, you go to Chicago, and then there was like Houston started to do okay. But I mean, you yourself know the United States is huge, and if you're in this whole region, kind of in the southeast of the United States, there was no comedy, so it was tough. I was doing like car dealership openings and churches, and not places that are easy to get laughs, and so I migrated into radio. And the only place that would hire me in radio was a Southern Gospel radio station. And when you're from the East Coast originally and you move down south, and people are doing Gypsy Rose Lee shit in the church or the radio station and throwing invisible fireballs and doing kick flips off the walls, and they're sitting there with handkerchiefs and stuff, pretending like the Lord's spirit's in them and stuff. You're sitting there like, what in the hell am I watching? And so that was interesting too, my caveat in the radio. And then I played music. I was a bass player for a funk and hip hop band for about 12 years, got into pro wrestling when that got boring, got out of that. I still wrestle today when people pay me enough, but I got out of that. to basically get into I got into a paranormal, we had a paranormal TV show and still do. We haven't filmed anything in a while, but we have something called Wrestling with Ghosts, which was 3 pro wrestlers protecting this paranormal dork when we would go into places from evil spirits. He hired us. That was kind of how the premise of the show was. We got rid of him because he was an insufferable twit. And then we just did it ourselves. And we've had a lot of fun doing that. And then when COVID hit worldwide, Big Luke, who's my tag team partner, he's the Big and Funky Productions. He's 7 feet tall. Everybody, when we go to conventions and stuff, everybody thinks I'm a little person because I'm always standing next to this fucking tree. And I'm almost 6 foot tall myself. So we got all these girls going, "Oh my God, I thought you were tiny. I was going to put you in my pocket." I was like, "No, I'm standing next to a freaking telephone pole and all these photographs, you know?" And so anyway, people legitimately thought I was a little person. They thought I was like Peter Dinklage or something, you know, I drink and know things or whatever. So, so it's been weird. But anyway, so he was like, "Man, we need to start doing we need to make a movie." And since I'm the editor, I was like, "No, I don't want to effing do a movie. That's, God damn it, that's going to be a lot of work for me." And it has been. He talked me into it. And for the last 3 years, all I've done is sat in this room and filled it with farts and edited and have no social life. And nobody's ever touched my penis since because I barely bathe. I never see the sunlight, but I'm in here editing these movies. But these things that we're doing now, I maybe you guys have heard of this over there. I'm curious about this, but have you ever heard of the Great Smoky Mountains?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, man. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. He's from Chicago. I'm from Baltimore, but we live in the South. We live in Tennessee, which is a beautiful freaking place. And if people figured out how awesome it was, everybody would move here. But anyway, we were like, there's enough stories about New York. There's enough stories about Chicago. There's enough stories about LA. There's enough stories about Texas or even Baltimore. I said, but there's not a lot of stories and movies coming about the legends and the lore and the paranormal stuff that happens with this mystical, weird southern region of these mountains, the part of the Appalachian Mountains on the East Coast. But the Smoky Mountains are kind of Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia, a little bit of Virginia, I think, but mainly it's Tennessee and North Carolina. And there's tons of legends and lore in these things, and people don't even in the paranormal universe don't even talk about these things. And so we were like, this is an avenue where we can put these movies out into the ether, and it shines a little bit of a light, even though these are horror comedies. These are low budget movies. These aren't $1 million movies. But we had a pretty good way of telling stories, and we were like, I think people will find these stories interesting, and because they're not conjuring of our imagination. They're actually places and things that we have to deal with, have heard of, just by living here.
Interesting, man.
Yeah.
I've heard of the Smoky Mountains and things that go on there, and it is said to be a place of high strangeness. You've got a lot of different cryptids and all things like that, which I love. I find it fascinating. Can you tell us sort of some of the laws and legends that you've uncovered?
Well, there's 6 movies that we're doing, and each one has to do with a type of legend and lore, and some of them are kind of highbrow, but some of them, the first one is called The Hike, and that's available in Tubi and Plex, and I think something called Real Veal out in the UK. It's on a bunch of streaming services, but it looks like a rom-com. It looks like a horror movie. There's a lot of comedy in the beginning, and it almost looks like Deliverance. There's these weird rednecks kind of running around the woods, which there's that in the Smoky Mountains too. But it comes at the end of the day that there's this malevolent presence called Spearfinger, which Spearfinger is a Cherokee legend. And we actually did a paranormal investigation for Spearfinger in about a 2-year period. An exorbitantly high number of human beings were getting killed in the Smoky Mountains by trees falling on them, which you would think, crack, oh shit, and you just move away. But there was like, I can't remember the number, but it was like 2 years, 18 people. That's a lot of people. So when you're a paranormal investigator, you're like, probably this is nothing. This is probably just some sort of weird worm or some sort of vermin in the trees that are making the trees weak or some shit, and they're falling a lot easier. But we also have heard, because we live next to a Cherokee reservation, that Spearfinger manipulates nature and can kill by throwing boulders and knocking down trees and that type of shit. And but at our core, Spearfinger is a rock golem that can turn into a human being, and she becomes a mimic. She can turn into your grandmother. She can turn into the woman that lives in the village that you wanted to screw your whole life. She could turn into a long lost relative. And then when she gets you off the trail, she'll stick you with her spear finger, which is this long obsidian finger, and she'll eat your GD liver, you mother effer, and you've been spear fingered. So we went over there, and we went to the reservation, and me and Luke are white, and Travis, who is a wrestler called El Gordo Gringo, which means the fat American. He always wrestles under a mask. He's with us, and we had a girl that was part native with us. But when we went over there and we started interviewing the Cherokee, we just kind of thought they'd be like, oh man, that story. Yeah, let me tell you about it. But they were all very guarded, you know. They were all like, why do you want to know about her? And we were like, well, we're doing an investigation. And they're like, an investigation of what? You know, so they were like, it wasn't this free information that we expected. Because I mean, it's a Native American reservation, but it's just like anywhere else in the world. I mean, they're used to us, we're used to them. They're part of America, you know. They have Arby's and McDonald's and shit, and you know, it's just like going to somebody's hometown. You know, you just didn't expect. But everybody that was a native was kind of like, why do you want to know? So we were kind of like, okay, this is still, we don't want to mock, it's a horror comedy, but we don't want to mock their religious beliefs or their cultural identity or anything like that. But we're still going to do it. So we asked questions, and they told us some answers. And then we were thinking about looking for in this particular trail in a town called Bryson City, North Carolina. There's a road that shoots out to the west and kind of northwest. It's called the Road to Nowhere. And it was a road they were cutting through the mountains that was trying to connect Bryson City, North Carolina, and if I'm not mistaken, Townsend, Tennessee, which is near Gatlinburg, which is kind of famous, but it's kind of near Knoxville, Tennessee, which is kind of a more famous town. But anyway, it's in the vicinity of all that stuff. But they were trying to connect those two cities, towns, villages. They're not really cities. And the hippies were like, cut this out. We don't need to cut this up. We don't need another road. And this was back in before the interstate system. This was back in the 30s and 40s, right around Dwight Eisenhower's administration, before the interstate system was put in. And the hippies won. So they were carving this road out, and it stopped. And there's a tunnel called the Tunnel to Nowhere. And after this tunnel, this highway turns into gravel, and it turns into mud, and it turns into trails that you can go all over the Smoky Mountains in that part. So no road was finished. And on that road, Tom, there's no houses, there's no gas stations, there's no Targets, there's nothing. It's just a 15-minute drive down a highway that leads to absolutely nothing. It's kind of eerie. Well, off the road is a thing called the Nolan Creek Trail. The Nolan Creek Trail is somehow ranked the #1 haunted trail in North Carolina. I don't know how they rank them. I don't know if they have bowl games or if they play each other every week, but somehow they've been rated #1. So we were telling these lovely people in Cherokee, we're going to go check her out. Where's a good place? And they said Nolan Creek. My brother had a paranormal experience on Nolan Creek Trail. He's a hiker. And my brother doesn't believe in any of the hobgoblin stuff, but he has a story that was pretty remarkable. And he even said it. There's a show called It Happened to Me, and the episode's called The Voice, where he goes and he sits there and he tells about experience on Nolan Creek Trail. We were like, and I was like, I know this thing. My brother told me about it. So we go down that thing, and one of the things the Cherokees told us was, if you see orange lights, that's the spirits trying to warn you that Spearfinger's around. So we're on a trail, 2 in the morning, in a place that's barely gets radio reception. We're 15 miles from the nearest town. The nearest actual city we're close to is a town called Proctor. And Proctor was flooded out when the white man came in there and flooded out their dam area to make a dam. And that's probably a source of contention to the Cherokee as well. But there was a town that had movie theater, dentist office, a factory, all that stuff. All that was underwater, and all of it, there's still remnants of that city, but there are no roads to it. You have to walk through the mountains to get to it. You can still see rusted out cars, dilapidated buildings, and it's out here. That's the closest city we're near, and nobody lives there, obviously. Now it's a ghost town, but that's the closest town that we're at. So when we walk down the Nolan Creek Trail, we start with the cameras, and we're all a bunch of, grab ass, goofy ass motherfuckers, and we're all like telling jokes and stuff. And all of a sudden, all of us see 3 of these orange lights, and they shoot down the trail. And we were like, and it's captured on film on our show, Wrestling with Ghosts. And we were like, what is that? So we were like, looked at it. It was like, that's an orange light. We only captured 1 orange light, but it was like, that was an orange light. No helicopters, no planes, there's no airports, there's nothing. We are in the middle. It's like almost the Amazon in the Appalachian South, this area. All right, let's go. So we're walking down this trail, and the entire time, and since this is a paranormal show, you guys know this, there's lapping kind of water in a creek that's going down to our right. Well, water sounds like human voice. But there's a lot of people in the paranormal that say that spirits use the energy of water to communicate. We're hearing screams, we're hearing men's voices, women's voices, and it's pretty freaking, it's not just once or twice, it's like a conversation.
Wow.
And we're just stopping with the light going, what the fuck is happening over there? And we're like making sure there's no pranksters, there's no hikers. But man, we are out in the middle of nowhere, dude. If somebody had a bean fart, you'd hear it for 2 miles. So there's no snapping twigs. There's nothing, there's no animals even running around. I think, if I'm mistaken, we shot this in the wintertime too. So there wasn't a lot of animals moving around. I might be wrong about that. But anyway, it's been a couple of years. But anyway, nothing was moving around regardless, no matter what time of year it was. So anyway, we're sitting there with the flashlight. God, man, this thing. Jesus, what the fuck is happening over there? So we're walking and walking and walking. So I've got the camera, and I'm in the very back. Well, like I said, my tag team partner is a part of this group too. He's 7 feet tall, and he's got a big bassy voice. And behind us, we hear, "Hey guys, it's fucking Luke's voice." There's nobody effing behind us, man. And Luke is in the very front. And we were like, and wow. So our lady friend and our partner, who's part native, she's like, she's a mimic, man. This is what she does. She turns into other people and says shit. And we're like, okay. So we're walking down, and all of a sudden, a rock that is about this big shoots out of the subterfuge. It misses my daughter's ear by an inch. It could have creamed her, and it smacked right into a tree right in front of us and fell down. And it was like there was nobody there. And so we're like, how did that effing... And we got that on camera too. Of course, it's tough. Somebody could say, you put somebody over there and they threw it and whatever. But I mean, well, at least we got the thing so we could have it for ourselves. And the rock itself, and Big Luke, not only is he 7 foot tall pro wrestler, he's also an amateur gemologist. He's like, this rock does not belong in the Smoky Mountains. Like, this is from something from far away. There's no reason this rock is here. You could spend a day and you'll never find another rock that looks like this. So we keep walking, keep hearing all this garbage and gobbledygook, and the trail comes to a beaver dam that goes over a river. Now this is about 3 a.m. at this point. We're like, do we want to get a bunch of soakers? Do we want to follow? One of our fat asses is going to fall off in this damn river. Let's just call it a night. We got enough. And as we turn around, my daughter has a legion of monarch butterflies all over her legs. Like they're coming and they're like landing on her legs. And we're like, monarch butterflies, I'm not an entomologist, but I've been told they're not nocturnal, whatever the other word is for they only fly around the day. I have no idea why a bunch of insects that were supposed to be, asleep, all of a sudden jumped all over her legs. Some people, in paranormal, there could be people who get off in left field. Some people have said those were sent by something, or they cleansed her of some sort of negative, cleansed the group of negative energy. Because when we walked back all the way to our vehicles, on the left side at this point where the river was, we didn't hear one peep, not a scream, not a yell, not a woman's voice. So the idea that the water lapping was actually just sounding like human voice, it didn't sound like human voice on the way back. So
interesting.
Yeah, so we decided we're going to put Spearfinger as she's going to be our first antagonist in this Legends and Lore, because there was a lot of interesting evidence, whether it's real or not or whatever, just a bunch of coincidences. It was fun that evening to screw around, and it was enough to kind of put a movie together around her.
Yeah, man. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. So there's too many coincidences. That's a cool experience. I love it how they warned you that if you see the orange light, that's danger and don't go any further. But you were like, nope, we're going.
Well, if you put a bag of $1 million on the telephone pole outside and said, if you can climb that, Vinny, that's yours, I would get a chainsaw to cut it down. I could not. I'm afraid of heights. I cannot. If my daughter was up there and they were like, she was like, Daddy, help me, I'd be like, I'm calling the fire department. I couldn't climb up there to help her. I'm too afraid. Yeah. But spirits and stuff and hobgoblins and demons and shit, they don't bother. None of them bother me, man. And I've seen a lot of stuff happen, a lot of crazy stuff, but I can kick a Spearfinger's ass. You can put me on record. Get us in the ring.
Let's get this done.
Yeah.
So you see, you've had a few paranormal experiences as well before this?
Oh yeah, we had the show Wrestling with Ghosts, and it was it's on a bunch of weird television stations in the United States. But yeah, we've had some killer evidence, man. I mean, and I wouldn't say we're experts, because my personal opinion, I don't think there is a paranormal expert, because nobody knows what the hell is really what they're watching, and we don't know what we're really coming in contact with. But we have come in contact. In fact, the new movie we just released, it's not out yet, and we hope it's on streaming. Well, it will be on streaming services. I hope it's before Halloween, because that'll be more fun. But in the last scene, we have one of those little Avenger-esque type things right at the end of, the credits happen, bada boom, it goes back, and there's two girls walking out of a door, and I swear to God, if you guys watch Camp Smoky, look for it, Camp Smoky, that you hear this disembodied voice, or I guess it was an EVP, a girl's voice that says, help, and it just shoots, it permeates. And what's crazy about that, and I don't know how much you guys have done or whatever, but when you're mixing, if you're trying to make a TV show and you're listening to evidence and you have headphones on, that's how I mix stuff. You'll hear your friends breathing. You'll hear their knees popping because we're old as shit. You'll hear people snotting. And you can hear, I can hear my friends. I can tell who snorts oxygen up their nose. Like, oh, that's Candy. That's Travis. That's, I know that's El Gordo Gringo. That's Luke. It's my wife, whatever. And then you can hear all that, and it all exists on this kind of plane through the speakers in your mind. And paranormal stuff normally feels like if it's a three-dimensional image and everything's kind of happening here with this banal noise, the paranormal stuff always like shoots in different spots that are outside of that realm of what you're listening to.
Yeah.
And so that EVP at the end of the movie, Camp Smoky, it's just like, okay, there's some crew around, but the voice, help, like that weird pitch, it's like shrill in a way, and it's like louder than it really should be. And it was I don't know, it was just like ah, and it was like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't know.
Interesting, man.
Yeah, and so I could have taken it out, the EVP. I could have taken the EVP out, but I was like, why? It's a movie about a legend.
Yeah, you got to keep that in, man.
Can I take a time out? Can I take a time out real quick?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
My daughter's coming. Hey, you all right? I'm at home. I'm doing a podcast with a guy from Great Britain. She's making breakfast or something. I didn't know if you were in, your car and stuff. Are you okay? Hey, Julie, call Greta. Yeah. She needs to ask you a question ASAP. All right. No, this guy's looking at me. He's like, he's one of these roughneck guy. He looks like he's from he's intelligent like he's from London, but he's built like he's from Manchester, so we got to be careful. All right, see ya.
Oh man, can I leave that in?
Yeah.
Gotta leave that in, man.
What's funny, man, is I learned a lot about England from Ricky Gervais, Stephen Merchant, and Carl Pilkington.
Yeah,
and I love them too. And I feel sad that they're not kind of doing anything anymore. And
yeah.
I would just listen to their old Sirius or XM radio or whatever it was radio
it's
shows.
so good. Yeah.
It's the best stuff ever. But you can learn, they were all like, Carl was from Manchester. Gervais, I think, was from London, and then Stephen Merchant was from, but they all had three different distinct ways of speaking. And as an American, it can help educate you. And not everybody speaks the same from every spot, but through the, they would bust Carl's balls. Manchester's kind of like Alabama, or Manchester's kind of like Alabama for us. It's like a bunch of Neanderthal strong guys, and they have the best sports team, like the Alabama Crimson Tide never loses a football game. Manchester United never loses a soccer game, but yet it's like, anyway. So
that's funny, man.
You learned a little bit, just by listening to him.
I actually saw Ricky Gervais. I've seen him twice live. I saw him last year or the year before. And man, his face just makes me laugh. Like, he's not even saying a joke. And we're all sitting there and I'm crying of laughter. And my wife's looking at me like, calm down. No one else is laughing. I'm just laughing at his face. He's so funny, man.
He said something great, when he was talking about Steve Carell being on the American Office as his character. He was like, Steve is great because he's almost handsome. And it's a thing that comedians have. Like, this is why women have a hard time being funny. They're too pretty. Like, they're just like, they try to be up there and you're like, God, yeah, you're funny, but you're so hot. I don't know. There's something, you got to almost look a little goofy to be funny or something. That's probably why I do well in comedy. It's just, I'm almost a good looking bloke, but yet there's something off with my face and neck or something. So I kind of look like a comedian. So,
I used to dabble with stand-up comedy. I used to do stand-up comedy.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, man. I miss it. I love that adrenaline, that buzz that you get when it goes well is the best feeling in the world.
I've been places where I've done really well that surprised me, and it's like, how did that happen? And and I've been places where I just don't. We live in a day and age where there's just everybody, I don't know, there's always been hecklers, I guess, but everybody thinks they're funny now or something, and I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah.
God, shut the fuck up, man. You're not funny.
Yeah.
You're drunk.
Yeah. Oh man, the hecklers. I should just want to
Yeah.
fight hecklers.
You see, there you go. Maybe somebody from your past is pretty closely related to somebody from Manchester. You
Yeah,
go down there and
yeah, I think I've probably got roots there.
be-
So anyway, where was we with the paranormal? Got a little.
so anyway, I think that was kind of the period on that sentence there. Was just so our first movie was basically the hike is what it's called, and you can see me. I'm looking at Polaroid pictures, and I'm with this hot chick in a bikini top and dreadlocks. So if you see that anywhere over there, check that out. So that was our first movie. So
Yeah, man, interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So, what other laws and legends did you come across in the Smoky Mountains?
Our second movie, this may be too cultural for you guys. I don't know. But our second movie dealt with the religious dogma of the area, which I think is a tangible thing. The South is funny because everybody genuinely is nice. And I know there is like a connotation, everybody's kind of racist here. And I don't think that is 100% true. I do think there are people who live in the burned down meth lab mobile home park. Yeah, they're probably racist because they're stupid on everything. But like the people that actually get out and work in factories and stuff, I think 90% of them it doesn't matter what you are. And it comes from, these people would say it comes from like biblical principles or whatever. The law. They think people down here think this country was built on the laws of the Ten Commandments and Jesus and stuff like that. But it takes a weird turn at some point. They kind of a lot of people down here, not everybody, but they get pushy, with what they believe. And if you don't believe what they believe, you're going to hell and you're not a good person, and God doesn't necessarily, he's not going to accept you. And it's, when you step back from religion and you look at it, you're like, what kind of weird ass message is this to children? I mean, you're telling children, if you don't believe a certain way and you don't do this, I mean, it's very anti-American to me. It's one thing to believe in something yourself, but it's another thing to kind of like threaten people and be aggressive with it. And so our second movie, which is called WJHCAM, which is about a radio station. The WJHC stands for Jesus H. Christ. That helps people remember the callers. So it's WJesus H. Christ AM. It's about when I went down to South and I wanted to get a job in radio. And all I could get was that Southern gospel stuff, and just watching how the people that are professing certain things with their mouth, but they're actually doing something else, and how that kind of almost becomes this evil in itself that I could perceive. And so the fun of the movie is kind of just a fish out of water. It's almost like My Cousin Vinny, a Yankee down south, looking at that stuff. But it's also explores the fact, like, what if Y2K was really happened? And one thing we forgot to tell people in the beginning of the movie is what Y2K was. We should tell all the millennials, and Y2K was this thing. Everybody in the world was a little concerned that we were told that when New Year's Eve happened of 2000, the computers were going to go like, what? Zeros? And all the Russian missiles would be starting to shoot off, and there'd be nuclear power plant explosions and stuff like that. Nothing happened like that. But people believed it. I mean, there were people, and especially the people who were akin to listen to these radio stations and stuff that was gospel. Guys would come in and be like, we're making a shed and we're getting all these, I'm lifting weights and I'm cutting wood and I'm getting water and distilled water. And it's like, you were just like, man, chill out. It's going to be okay. I think, no, it's not, so
yeah.
What if this movie WJHCAM explores, what if they were right? Y2K was the end of the world. Jesus came back. And then when Jesus left, all the assholes on the planet had to fight off the monsters Armageddon. So it was kind of a, I don't know if you've ever seen Pontypool, which is a pretty good horror movie in a way. It's similar to Pontypool. It's a lot of Clerks. It's a lot of Dogma from Kevin Smith, some Evil Dead thrown in, but it's there's a little bit of Jesus, there's a little bit of boobs, there's a little bit of butts, and there's a lot of blood and
I'm watching it.
Yeah, it was in 2022. It was the highest rated horror comedy, and it was started off real slow. And I wanted to kind of paint a picture of what life was like back then, and then it starts to pick up as it goes, and by the end of it, it's pretty damn good, man. I think we're proud of that one. We actually think there was some divine intervention. We're like, this is a better movie than we actually could make. So if you stay with it, man, yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
I'll be checking it out for sure.
There's a lot of horror people that are like, I'm watching this for an hour, there's no horror. I'm like, just stay with it. Just stay with it. Yeah. So
for me, if I start a film, I have to finish it. I don't know if it's an OCD thing or what, but I put a film on and I have to finish it, or it bugs me.
That could be good or bad, you know. I mean, sometimes there's some terrible things out there that don't need to be watched. But, yeah.
Because they were saying at the time that planes are going to fall out the sky and all sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of fear.
I forgot about that too, like the navigation systems and So no, and what's funny, I mean, everybody kind of believed it. I don't know if we've ever experienced something that was kind of like I don't know. It was a horrible worldwide tragedy that didn't happen, that almost everybody kind of believed in.
Yeah.
Nobody believed in it. And then some people kind of believed in it. But like everybody kind of thought, well, it was in the back of our mind, I guess.
Yeah.
What it was.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
It was weird because even the experts were like, we actually just don't know. We don't know if it's going to happen.
And that was before the big division of what we have now as news. You have in the United States, you have liberal news and you have conservative news. And you're like, if you're like most Americans, you're like, where's the effing news? I don't need to be told what to think by the left wingers. I don't need to be told what to think by these goofball conservatives. I just present me the information.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine if Y2K happened now, how weird, buck-ass, insane. We just went through COVID, which was an actual pandemic that killed people that I knew. And there's still people now talking about it that's like, we still can't even agree that was a disease that happened. It's like now there's like, it's a conspiracy theory, and oops, we lied about a couple things. Aha, I knew it. And it's like, what? Everybody shut up. Just tell us what's happening the best you can. It's bizarre. So if Y2K came down now, it might have flipped the society on its ear.
Yeah, man, it would go crazy. I don't watch the news anymore. I stay away from the news.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
So have you got any cryptids in the Smoky Mountains that you've looked into, like the Dogman, Sasquatch?
There are legends. I can't I don't want to say we've done a movie or we're about to do a movie about one, but that's the twist. That's the M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end of the movie. So I don't want to say that one, but yes, there are a couple. The Smoky Mountains are just rife with interesting things. And I'm going to tell you, we're doing a secret movie we haven't told our fan base about. One of the movies is going to be about the River Styx. They're actually in the Smoky Mountains. The only place that's named after anything in Greek mythology is River Styx. There's a Styx branch river, and we're going to do a movie about the River Styx and the boatman Charon. If you remember high school Greek mythology, you know, the people would get on a boat, and the boatman who's the Grim Reaper would take a coin and take you to hell, basically take you to the afterlife. So we're going to do a quick movie about that. Nobody knows about that yet, and we haven't announced it yet, but that's another thing, is that there's this river where people say crazy ass paranormal vibes and EVPs and stuff. are on this river, and it's the only place in the Smoky Mountains named after anything out of Greek mythology. So we're going to do a story about that. There's, the Smoky Mountains harbor conscientious objector camps that you can go and look at. People who objected to involvement in World War II, they would live there. And sorry about that, by the way. I know you guys needed some help.
Yeah, thank you.
There's Eddie Izzard has a great comedy piece. He was like, Great Britain's over there hiding behind a rock, and America comes out going, hello. And they're like, why the fuck you men, mate? And he's like, I love the smell of France in the morning. Need to get some breakfast. It's like, holy shit, man, where you been? So great. He's funny.
Better late than never.
Yeah. Better late than never. Did you see that? Have you ever seen that?
I've not seen that, no.
Oh man, that's about 20-something years old. That was before he came out as gay. He still was a transvestite, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was a great God, that's one of the best stand-up comedy gimmicks of all time. But anyway, so yeah, there's all sorts of stuff, man. There's cabins. There's they're just all over the place, and there's no cities in this whole region. It's all just mountains, and you just come across this stuff. And so this is interesting. This guy, I got a message, and they were like, this guy's like, what are you up to? I'm like, what are you talking about, brother? I'm up to a lot of things, I just keep it on the DL. And he's like, what are these movies you're making? Why are you making these movies? I'm like, because they're fun, and hopefully, somebody will want to touch my penis after I make a couple of these things or whatever. But he's like, there's a book called the So Joanna book. Look it up. S-O, the word Joanna, I think with one N, and book. And it's an old book that somebody found. And I mean, when he was telling old, I thought it was like hundreds of years old, but it's like from the 50s. And it's a travel guide. And inside of the book are all sorts of cryptic words, kind of like word puzzles, code words, and also satellite location coordinates. And apparently these movies we have been making are all jiving up with these things from this book they found back in the 90s or something. And you can actually go online and you look up The Hike, Spearfinger, Big and Funky Productions, WJHC, and Soho Joanna book. And our movies are like being discussed right now about what were, like, the guy thought we came up with everything. Like back in the 2000s, we found this book and just let it be found or something. I'm like, dude, I ain't that clever, brother. I'm not that smart a cat, man. I said, I'm just making dick jokes in the woods with a monster behind a tree. I don't know, but, and there's like, what's crazy is the third movie we're releasing right now called Camp Smoky. There's a word that we use called Chausatonga, and it matches up perfectly with this exact same region in North Carolina where the story happens. And WJHC is about radio, and apparently in this book, there's tons of radio transmitters, coordinates all over this book. And then there's a lot of information about Spearfinger, and that was our first movie. And our fourth movie, it's going to be about the Oak Ridge supercomputer, and there's coordinates about the supercomputer. And we were calling something, and dude, it was like, and he's sitting there telling me this, and I'm like, so I actually interviewed him, and it was so weird, man. I don't know if you've ever if you hip to some of the weird jive in media. He refused to be on camera, and he refused to have his voice recorded, but yet he would type. And I was doing an interview with someone typing to me. Yeah, it was weird. And
that's different.
Yeah. It reminds me, one of my favorite authors is an ex-pimp who found God named Iceberg Slim. and he wrote a book called Pimp, and he wrote one called Trick Baby, and one called The Long White Con. But he would go on TV with these square white guys, and he would be in this mask, and he'd have his hands covered. It looked like a horror movie. This weird like, where did you find that effing mask? Iceberg Slim would always do interviews with this mask because he didn't want to be, he didn't want to he didn't want to be a rat or whatever. He didn't want his identity known or being able to be seen because he committed a lot of crimes. But anyway, it kind of reminded me of that. I thought that was kind of amusing.
So this guy, he's got this book, and he obviously wouldn't know about your fourth movie because it's not been done yet, but he's telling you that that's coming.
There's a code word that we were going to use called wormwood, and it's in the book. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild stuff. And it's actually, wormwood was the code word of the actual region. I'm not sure if you're aware. I don't know if you watched Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer came out. It was a kind of a big movie, came out with Barbie. I'm going to tell you right now, horribly overrated. You can't make scientists cool. 3 hours of a scientist talking about stuff. Dude, no. Even though it's about a big bomb that explodes and all this stuff, not interesting, not good from a filmmaker standpoint. But anyway, Frances Pugh, you could see her boobs, so that's good enough. But anyway, they talk about Oak Ridge in that movie. Oak Ridge was the location of the largest computer in the world, and that's actually where they and this is kind of like, this is just down the street from me. This is where they had what was it, Fat Boy and or Fat Man and Skinny Boy or whatever it was, the two bombs they dropped in Japan. They were here in Tennessee. So,
oh wow,
and they made them. Processed the uranium here in Oak Ridge. So anyway, we're making a comedy about technology and AI and stuff like that about the Oak Ridge supercomputer. And it's more of a comedy, science fiction, kind of a horror movie. But, this guy was telling me all about this stuff. And I was like, damn, we were going to use all that stuff in our
wow
movie. Weird. Yeah.
man.
But if you look up So Joanna book, there's a wiki about it. And it's pretty interesting to see like our stuff. You'll see our lady friend, who are one of our best friends. She's dressed up as Spearfinger. It's like a big, nice full color picture there, and we're associated with this cryptid book now, which is pretty wild.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
that is cool. So, what other paranormal experiences have you had when you was investigating?
We've had an insane amount of success. We have with Wrestling with Ghosts, we have our own philosophy, which is you joke with the dudes, you flirt with the girls, and you tease the kids. And so we go in, and our show Wrestling with Ghosts has won. We were like the winners of this Destination America new paranormal team search, where they were trying to find a new team to put on TV, and we won that. And then right when that happened, the plug was pulled, and we were going to be on A&E, and then that's when this huge California fire happened, and the producer's home was destroyed, and he was displaced for like 10 months. And so everything went to shit then, and everything the network went to do. So it's kind of like we've been almost famous and on TV with this philosophy about 5 or 6 times. Shoot, that's not even a joke. So our show is a lot different, and a lot of producers and network heads were like, this isn't going to work because paranormal people want to be scared and they want it to be serious. And we did a lot of humor. Here's our philosophy is have a good time. Hold on one second. And this is awful. I'm running a business here too.
That's cool.
Blah,
man.
blah, blah. All right, here we go. So if you can cut this out here. So our philosophy, somebody's like, send me 55,000 text messages. Please answer the phone. So anyway, so our philosophy is human. And if you step back and watch other ghost shows, they're so dumb. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on them. I know a lot of people like these people and stuff, but they're told to be. That in their defense, they're told from the networks, we want you to say this, do this, act like this. And we found out that they fake a lot of evidence because nobody wants to sit there and look at three fat white dudes in black t-shirts for 45 minutes going, you hear that? Oh, you hear that? That's not fun. So they got to fake evidence every once in a while, or people just turn it off and go, God, I can just do this myself. Surprise, you can. All you need is a flashlight and something to record shit with, and ta-da, you're a ghost hunter. There is not this awesome school you have to go to. You don't have to defeat a devil at a game of chess or anything like that. All you have to do is stand around in a dark room and go, hey, you there? Is there anything you want to tell us? So anyway, so we go in and we try to be jovial, and we get a fucking shit ton of evidence and things laughing, girls pornographically moaning when we're flirting with them and pretending like we're touching their naughty bits and
Wow.
just yeah, dude, we sit there and there's like, we went to a Confederate cemetery and there's hellhounds up there where these dogs were barking like crazy, and I started cutting fucking sausages with a knife, and then the dogs started going EVPs, man, and fucking disembodied whimpering and shit. I mean, it was insane.
Wow.
Like these demon dogs were going, "Bleh, bleh. You want a sausage?"
Wow.
I guess they don't feed you in hell too much.
Do you think it's something to do with the energy that you guys are putting in is slightly different because you're having fun as well? It's a different sort of energy to going in there being serious. You think that's what it is?
Well, if you think about it, if you were dead and you were a ghost or whatever, and these fucking people come in at 2 a.m. when you're supposed to be in bed, and they're like, "Are you there? How did you die?" Be like, get the fuck out of my house, man. What are you fucking? Get the fuck out. But if somebody came in here going, I'll take my shirt off unless you say something in the microphone, people be like, what? So I mean, you just hit people in strange, or these things in weird spots. And again, I don't know if these are ghosts. I don't know if this is residual energy. I don't know if they're time travelers. I don't know if they're creatures we don't even know what they are. Are they demons? Are they angels? Are they dead children? Are they something we can't even... Are they creatures that exist in a plane that we can't perceive normally, which is a concept I got from a book called Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. There are these creatures that kind of go in our dimension and you can barely see them, and sometimes they'll kind of stop and say something and they'll move on. And I was like, boy, that's a interesting concept, because as a human being, we're so arrogant into thinking that we know everything about everything when we're very ignorant about most things. And it's like, we could be in a giant fishbowl of stuff just moving around us, and we don't even know, because we can't perceive on that dimension.
Yeah.
And even, not to get too religious, the Bible talks about 4 dimensions: height, width, depth, and something called, and they can't translate this word properly because they don't know what it is, but in the English they translate it to breath. So even when we die, if the Bible is true, or heaven's true, or if there is an eternal life and whatever this is saying, we're going to be like, what? Because there's going to be another dimension that we can perceive in. And like now, it'd be like a 2-dimensional man plopping down on Earth, and it'd be like, oh my God, women have boobs. It would just be like crazy, because they would be like, oh my God, they come out like that too. It was always all girls, and our thing was just like this. And so, I mean, we're going to be like that in I think in heaven, and hopefully there's boobs in heaven, and there's another dimension to them. That would be
For
awesome.
sure.
Yeah,
That's interesting, man.
yeah. So there's no telling what we're screwing around with or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think I think that's so. Regardless, and I think what we have decided, we've been doing this for about, now we've taken some years off because we're making movies and it takes a lot of energy, and we're all chomping at the bit, like, let's go do another investigation. But I think what we have learned, if we have learned, and if we've been deceived, this is what we've been deceived to. I believe it's all energy. I think it is energy. I think we've had coolers on investigations and nothing happens. And we've had people who are all hip to the jive, and it's a freaking fun house. And so is it, you could sit there, a skeptic would believe, like, or say something like, well, you guys are just given into each other's desire to see things, and if something did, a rat did like go through the wall and make a noise, that you're all just wanting to be like, oh, it's a ghost, and but you have to, I mean, everybody I run with is pretty intelligent. We can discern between bullshit and stuff pretty easily, and sometimes we may be wrong, but when you come back home and you have disembodied, you're in a cave where the French used to drag Native Americans into and kill them and leave their bodies. And you go down there and you're doing an investigation, and all of a sudden you hear people mocking animal noises. Tell me what that is, Ricky Gervais, you atheist. Tell me what you think that is.
Yeah.
Is that
sure,
me?
man.
Is that just me being crazy, or just wanting to believe, or is there actually something there that we just don't understand? And so,
Yeah, man. Have you seen anything like a ghost or a shadow figure or anything like that?
we've captured 3, I think. It's been a while since I've watched the shows, and I'm getting old and I can't remember, but there's the best one is, a lot of people may be interested to know this. There's actually, in the city I live now, I moved out here. There's a town in Tennessee called Morristown. That there is a church called the Bethesda Presbyterian Church, and this was a lot of people be interested to know that East Tennessee was Union. That wasn't part of the Confederacy. But because the state voted to be a Confederate state, with this part of Tennessee, and actually this part of Tennessee almost broke off to be its own state, because it did not want to go against the Union Army in the Civil War. And it was almost this part of the country, which would be Knoxville and the kind of the upper east part of Tennessee. If you ever seen Tennessee, it looks like a rhomba geometry figure. It's kind of this, they're long, it's very long. Well, anyway, this part up here would have been broken off into a state called Franklin, because they didn't want to go against the Union Army, or they didn't want the Union to be severed, or whatever it was. So nowadays, with the South being what it is and stuff, people have a hard time thinking about that. Like, wow, that's kind of weird. Now, there were Confederate people, sympathizers in this area, but the politicians and stuff were Union sympathizers. So there's not a lot of wars that happened in this part of Tennessee. They were mainly like guerrilla wars, like where the pockets of Confederate people were trying to stop the Union from coming south. So anyway, all of this to say, there was a church here in Morristown where it was split between Union and Confederate backers. And the Union part of the congregation would sit on one side of the church, and the Confederate backing part of that congregation would sit on this part of the church, and the minister would go up there and utter out the word of God. Now, can you imagine a contentious? This would be like in the United States having Trump people and also like left-wing liberal people in a church, and they would be like, they would be separated. It would just be this weird, cantankerous energy. Well, guess what? That's what I think this stuff is energy. So this was a church that had a graveyard that would have Confederate gravestones and Union headstones. They would not intermit. If me and you were brothers and we both died and you were Union and I was Confederate, they wouldn't put, Vinnie and Tom, you'd be over there, I'd be over here. Man, that is some evil shit. And I don't like any of that. I wish that never happened, but that's what it was. So, and especially this happening in the house of God. So you have that third entity of energy where it was, okay, Prince of Peace, no war. Oops, we're at war. Okay. So all this energy going around. So I was actually inside. I didn't get to see this except when we captured it, but the team was out in the graveyard. I was inside, and actually there were orange lights inside of that church, and I didn't capture that either. But the guys did capture this. They did capture in the graveyard. They were looking across the field, and their raw eyes, as John Madden calls it, they were looking, and they didn't see anything. They look through the Viewmaster, and they see what looks like a Civil War soldier walking away from them, full body, for unlimited seconds. We have the guy on our team called El Gordo Gringo is obsessed with sending his private parts through Snapchat to all the young ladies out there who are his wrestling fans. He was on his phone, and you can see Luke, who's the giant, who's kind of the lead in this Camp Smoky movie. He's like, Travis, get over here. He's like, what? Get off your GD Snapchat and come over here. You can look it through this. And so there was a docent of the church that was there, and he was like, holy crap. We're having a conversation. This thing is standing still just like this. Hat, backpack, walking up a hill. They take the camera, they go to where it is to chase it down, totally disappear. Wow. But you could only see it through the Viewmaster. You couldn't see it with your raw eyes. And that was one. We did another investigation in a place that was called the most it was a 3-walled prison. It's the world's only 3-walled prison because it was built into a Tennessee mountain. It's called Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. It was called the worst place on earth at one point. A lot of people got killed there. This just tells you how, this is why religion was one of our movies. This is how stupid people are down here. No offense to Tennesseans and and what they believe in, but they built the prison in the shape of a cross because they thought it would help. What it did was you had the hub of, I guess, correctional officers or whatnot, and then you made these effing long-ass wings of like, what they couldn't control what was happening on the corners, right? So this became, if you were black and you were in there with the Aryan Nation or whatever, dude, vice versa, you were effed. It was bloodbath in that place, man. So, and then a lot of the people were corrupt. There was nothing about God in that place either. So we were investigating the stacks of the Brushy Mountains State Penitentiary. And I brought on that was our largest investigation. I brought a drag queen, I brought a furry, I brought a brewmasters, I brought a pet psychics, I brought all these people, and we're wild enough ourselves, girls with blue hair, just to see what would happen. But we were going through the stacks, dude, and I saw, swear to God, you're a football fan, 4-point stance, fucking dogman, black ears, sitting there like he was looking, and these things, whoa, these were very tight corners, or very tight, not corners, very tight straightaways. These stacks were very strange. All of the cells were on the right side, depending on your vantage point, but all the cells were on the right side, and then there was this open air nothingness to the left. And so they were stacked like this, and there were several floors. And so it's tight though, man. Like if somebody wanted to barricade you, you could not get around it. It wasn't like, oh, you're there, I'll just walk around. because it was like a 5-story drop to nothingness. So it was tough to get back there in those days. So anyway, there's an effing black dog man down there, 4-point stance, looking up at me like this. We did not capture it. Ran down there. Hey. And we're like, there's nothing there. What we did capture, we turned around and it looked like Mr. Clean under a light doing this, bald head, like, what you motherfuckers gonna do? And we were like, what? And so we ran down, and as we ran down to that, it disappeared too. Now, we also captured what looks like a Korean water demon in that place, but I didn't even put that in the episode because I was like, what the hell is a Korean water demon doing in Tennessee? That didn't even make sense. But there was this long black hair thing with a white, and I was
you got that on camera as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, that's just wild. That's too crazy to put in the damn episode. You know, I mean, it was weird. That place is buck wild. And we also captured, I won't tell you the whole story of this one. This is interesting. A building kind of changed, and we saw legs walking in the air, like, you know, how the floor was removed or whatever. And now you just saw like legs kind of walking like this, like, and we captured that as well. So
that's cool, man. Wow. So when you saw the dog man, obviously you didn't get that on video, but how big was that?
Oh, pro wrestler size, like a big ass man.
Jeez. Yeah. And that was in the prison.
Mm-hmm. And I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know what a dog man is. It just looked like, so we're so outside of the paranormal, so it just looked like a black mass with a dog head. So I guess that's what people could do. Yeah, with the ears and the snout, you know.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Pretty wild.
That is a cool experience. And did that just disappear right in front of you, or?
Yeah. You look back now, you're like, I only saw that. So when you see something like that and nobody else goes, whoa, you're like, maybe I didn't see that. That could have been a shadow. That could have been eye world. It's weird, but the thing is, I don't go around my house and go, hey, there's a dog man. You know, it's weird that it happens at that place at that time when other things are happening. Non-stop EVPs. That episode is an hour and 20 minutes of just, and we cut shit out. It was just like, hey, I'm gonna kill you. We did, that was the episode too. The guy that was suspected of killing Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray, was housed there. This was an infamous jail. And so I made out with a girl in that jail cell just to do it. But then also El Gordo Gringo came down and we played the I Had a Dream speech. And we would hit stop. It almost like that game, like musical chairs. We just, I had a dream, black men and white men, stop. And we hit stop. And you would hear black folks being like, yeah. Or you would hear people like, shah. I mean, it was crazy. You'd hear all these weird noises. There was this, when we were playing it and we listened back to the audio, you hear this long, what the fuck was that? So yeah, it was buck wild, man. That place was hopping.
Wow, man. I need to check that out for sure as well. Awesome stuff, man.
Thank you.
Awesome stuff. have you got any other wild experiences to share?
A million of them. Yeah, I mean, just let's see. I'll give you one more good one. I want to tell you how fun the team is, because those are things that seems like it could happen to anybody. So this is how we do. So we go to Ohio, outside of Cincinnati, and there's kind of a place, I'm sure you guys have this too. There's a school, and oh God, the kids, oh no, they ran out on the track and a train came and killed every kid. Oh, you know, this bullshit story happens everywhere. Children on a goddamn train track. Jesus. Killed a lot of people. So So anyway, this was a place that had a school where a bunch of kids, stupid ass kids, ran out on the track, got killed by the train. So, and the place kind of, and I don't want to shit on it because people enjoy it. They've taken this place, they bought it, they're trying to get their money back on it. So they make it a investigators come and pay this kind of money and we'll be here and you can do whatever you want. And they doll the place up. It doesn't, like, there's literally, there's like one room that's got tons of dolls. Doesn't even make sense. Nobody brought their doll to school. So, but there was a lot of weird stuff that happened. So there was this, you know, there's other rooms like you'd walk in and there'd be like something sitting there to scare you. And you're like, what is this, a haunted house? Or are we here to investigate? It doesn't make sense. So it's just trying to throw spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks, you know. But to me, that kind of offended me. And I'm not even a full-fledged, you know, paranormal purist or whatever. It's just like, we don't need this kind of goofy shit. But anyway, this it made it less valid to me. But we're there with some friends from Ohio, and we don't carry around devices. That's the other thing about us. It's weird. We're high touch, not high tech. So we don't have EMF detectors and freaking all these gadgets, man, because I'm like, you know, if somebody sit there and go, look, all these lights are lighting up. I'm like, so what? I got a goddamn Atari Lynx or a Game Boy that does the same thing. It doesn't mean anything to me. I need to hear it. I need to see it. That's what I need, or I need to feel it. But if we're going to put a TV show on and I'm like, look, it's lighting up, I don't give a damn. That doesn't mean shit to me. But it may to you. I mean, you may love that stuff, and God bless you. So for the second season of our show, we had people that were friends, and they would bring these devices. Now, the converse, and what I would say is the counterpoint to what I'm saying, is that devices can generate evidence, but it doesn't have to be an EMF detector. We could have anything. These handcuffs. Don't ask me why I have this within arm's reach, but these handcuffs, if we figured out a way, we could use this as some sort of device to communicate. And it's not the handcuffs. It's not this thing. It's not the safe word. It's the idea and the energy put into whatever. It could be, you could use this half full Diet Coke here. You could use that too. So, but you could use these things as well. So that's one thing we've learned since we got open-minded, because we were first like, fuck that shit. But anyway, so, hey, how you doing? You going to the movies? All right, I'm talking to the guy from Great Britain. You want to say anything?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
She looks good. She's, you know, from the neck up. See, I love you. So anyway, she couldn't think of anything interesting to say to somebody from Great Britain of all countries. Anyway, so like I said before, we're wrestlers. So El Gordo Gringo is there, and Big Luke, and we're there with our friends, and they got this thing called this is the reason I'm just pausing here. They got a thing called an obelisk. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so an obelisk machine. So it's one of these gadgets that supposedly sweeps for what the ghosts are trying to tell you, and it spits out on a word. Okay. So we're down there, and of course there's a girl, always a little girl down there, and she's very lonely and shit, you know. And so we're talking to the little girl, and they got an EMF detector, and they have this, they put it on this thing, and this thing's lighting up. And it's responding to us. What do you think about that? You like Pokemon? So whatever, you know, it's just doing that shit. And we're like, okay. So to make this more like wrestling with ghosts, I said, I'll tell you what, you want me to punch my friend in the face? I said, you do? I said, I'll punch El Gordo Gringo right now. Okay. And I said, wait a minute, where do you want me to punch him? You want me to punch him up here? And I pointed to his mouth, and then I pointed to his junk area. I said, or do you want me to punch him down here? Well, on the obelisk machine, it pops up the word stones. How does a little girl know to call the balls stones? But she did, allegedly. I said, you want me to punch my friend El Gordo Gringo in the stones? Okay. So work shot, you know, we're pro wrestlers. Bam! He's sitting there selling. He falls over, he's grabbing himself. Nothing. Sarah, you want me to punch him in the stones? Nothing. About 45 seconds goes by, and the guy says, I've had this obelisk machine. So I may be mispronouncing it because I don't know these things. But anyway, I've had this obelisk machine for years, and it's never spit out a sentence. And it spit out a sentence. And he turns it around, and it says, are you okay?
Wow.
And we were like, yes. And so Travis quit selling, and we hugged. I said, we're friends. We're pro wrestlers. We're paid to punch each other. We do this for fun. We do this for money. Like it was laughing or whatever, like this EMF detector. That was a pretty intense thing. And then really after that, nothing else happened. And there was a lot of stuff going on, but it seemed like that validates stuff too. Like I feel like they can kind of wear themselves out. And now you're like a human being, like, all right, let's go fight a demon. You know, everything's gone at that point. And it was like, you could breathe easier. There was not a lot of weird temperature fluctuations and stuff like that. It was just like, you know, so yeah, that was kind of the end of that night. Except for one more thing that happened upstairs, but it wasn't nearly as cool as that. But yeah, in a way it was. But yeah, the cinematography and the cinematics was done at that point.
Yeah. Can you tell us what happened upstairs quickly? Because I need to know now. I don't know. The audience are probably going to need to know.
We were in a school. This is going to be a long story, and I'm sorry. I hope your audience enjoys this. But anyway, so we're in a school. And the guy that makes these movies with me, Big Luke, he's the idea guy for most of the movies. I come up with some. Travis comes up with some. We have a lady friend named Candy. She comes up with some. She is Spearfinger in the first movie, but this is kind of like the brain trust. We have another girl named Amber Schultz. She helps out. But Luke is a genius when it comes up with ideas. So on the fly, we were in a room. It was one of those rooms. I can't remember now, but this is a room where bad things happen and someone touched someone's butthole or something. I don't know what happened in there. But this is a bad room with a lot of bad energy. So Luke gets up there, 7 feet tall, long hair, long beard, does not look like a teacher. And he goes, hey, kids, today I'm the substitute. And I'm here with my friend Travis. And Travis is El Gordo Gringo. You know, and he's sitting there and he's like, when I point to you, I want you to say your name. I'm doing roll call. Well, in my mind, I'm like, damn, that's goddamn genius. I like that, you know? So he's going to go around the room and point and see which kids are there in class. Back up. And I'm not going to get into this too much. But in Tennessee, there was, and this is another story. You have me on again, I'll tell you this story all the way. But there was a little girl that contacted me in a very bad place. Another little girl. No, she didn't contact me in my physical bad place. We were in a bad physical location in the world for her. And allegedly she was the one that was murdered. And she spoke to me and grabbed my arm.
Wow.
And same thing kind of happened with Luke, and there's a whole story with that I can get into, and it would blow your mind. It's another amazing caveat to what we're doing. And then, so Luke, years later, and stuff started happening in my house. Toys would turn on. You could tell I got a lot of video games and stuff, and I had kids, so toys would turn on. A glass would be sitting on the table, and a big giant coffee table, and it just go. And it just go on the ground. I had 2 remote control sumo wrestlers because I'm a man, and those would come on and spin in circles and shit like that. And I was like, oh, what in the world? So a gay man goes up to Luke a couple years after this investigation, and he goes, there's a little girl with you. And Luke's like, what? He goes, there's a little girl who she tells me that she has two nice daddies now, and she's never had such fun, and she lives with both of her new daddies, and she met you at an old toy store where the bad stuff happened to her. And this all comes down, and the guy said this girl's name is Megan. And so Luke and I are like, well, I guess we're gay dads finally. It's awesome. Congratulations. So we have a daughter, and she hasn't been around in a while. Of course, you know how spirits, they have their own timing and stuff. I have no idea what's going on with her, but at this point, she was around quite a bit. And as Luke was flash forward into Ohio, and he's going around the room pointing the name, are you here? Are you here? Are you here? Disembodied voice, or excuse me, EVP, you hear Megan.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we were like, Megan came with us. And we've gone to do a couple of bad things where there's bad investigations and bad scenes. And we've told Megan to please stay in the car, you know. So I don't know, man. She might have got out on one of those and took off with, she might have got old enough to run off with a bad boyfriend from the other side, like a Ghost Rider type with a flaming skull on a motorcycle, and she took off. But haven't seen Megan in a while.
Man. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Vinny, thank you so much for sharing these amazing stories, man. Awesome stuff. I'm going to be checking out your work for sure.
Thank you.
Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
The best place to go is infunkyproductions.com. You can also go to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. There's a lot of stuff. There's paranormal stuff. There's our movie stuff, video games, comedy sketches. Just, I'm also a pool player. I do like these long runs of pool. So, you know, pick what you like. You don't have to stay around for all of it, but there's always something going on crazy over there at Big and Funky Productions on the YouTube page. And we got a lot of new stuff in the shop. If you want to help support independent paranormal investigations and people that make horror comedies about paranormal entities, go over there and buy DVD and stuff like that. It really helps keep the dream alive, if you guys. So it's bigandfunkyproductions.com. And also check out The Hike, WJHCAM, a new movie is coming out called Camp Smoky. And I also, our gang was helped produce and was in a movie called Vinnie's Fantastic Rock and Roll Adventure, which was a comedy about a guy going all the way from Chicago to LA via Route 66. And that's something I just did this summer, and that was a hell of a journey. 6,000 miles later, we did a movie for this guy, this production company. So it was awesome too. But yeah, check it out, man. We got a lot of crazy stuff going on over there.
Wow, man. Awesome stuff. As always, I will share all your links in the show description so people can find you. Vinny, man, super interesting stuff, and you've made me laugh a lot tonight. Thank you very much, brother. You're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
Thank you, brother. I hope the Jets get a win next week, and the Vikings too.
That'll be nice. I'll be praying for it.
Thank you very much, brother.
Take care.